You're listening to the voice note you didn't know you needed by Denise Cardenas. I just came across this creator and she's talking about the millennial career crisis. And I had to stop and listen because I'm millennial. And I was like, what are you talking about? And the more I'm listening to what she's had to say, I was like, oh, yeah, I went through this. Let's listen to what she has to say so you see or hear what she's talking about.
Think we're going through the great millennial career crisis. I saw another creator say this and I was like, yeah, I think that is 100% because of the fact that we were all sold a version of success that literally doesn't exist anymore. We're told go to school, pick a responsible career, work hard, you're going to get a good job. If you climb the ladder, you'll definitely be rewarded. Buy a house, get married, have the kids, and then you're going to feel fulfilled. And I recently started sharing on here and with some of my friends that I'm attempting to career pivot at 35 and start completely over. And so many people were like, yeah, I'm so burned out, or I'm bored, I'm unfulfilled, I'm questioning my entire identity right now. And I don't think it has anything to do with this idea of laziness or we're a less hardworking or less grateful generation than our parents. We entered the workforce during recessions, during all of the student loan craziness, during rising costs of literally everything, and now technology is taking out like entire job markets. So I think so many of us are realizing that our parents' dream isn't ours. It's not even real anymore. I think a lot of us value freedom, flexibility, meaning. So I think it makes sense that so many of us are seeking to pivot careers and to start over and to figure out what success even means for us. So I guess I just wanted to post this because if you're having those thoughts, like this can't be it. Also, I certainly don't have all the answers, but I will be sharing here my own attempt to pivot at 35, the lessons I'm learning being career confused, and maybe just by talking about this more, we'll all feel a little less alone and a little less crazy.
I love this so much. And she's so right because I definitely felt alone. So I did this huge pivot 8 years ago, right? I quit my corporate job. I was burnt out. I was so stressed out. I was so frustrated with my career. I was a single mom. And sometimes I'm like, Denise, you were a single mom. Like, how could you quit? You have no backup, no nothing. What are you thinking? But I was so desperate. I just went for it. And I was like, I don't want to return back to this environment anymore. Thankfully, I did have support. So just putting that out there in context. And that is very important to say. But I feel like when we reach this point, especially for millennials, like she mentioned, we grew up thinking that if we went to college, we got a corporate job, worked the corporate ladder, and everything was just work out. Everything would go into place, and it didn't. And now that I'm looking back at it, I just wanted a different life. And the only way to get there at that moment was just to quit and just go for it. It was just, I was looking for something to fulfill me, for me to be more present with my daughter. She was in kindergarten at that time, and I wanted to be there. Crazy to think that I'm talking about this, and now she's 14 at this moment, and how time flies. And the outside world, is telling you you're crazy, but there's something internally where you're like, no, this is not right. And crazy enough, I follow that instinct. Might not look traditional in so many ways, but this has been my mission without realizing it back then. It's been my mission to live a life that feels authentic to myself in a way that fills your cup, in a way that, you're living a life your way, right? And living a way that makes you feel good. And it's funny how every time I create something, it's always going back to doing something that makes you happy, that makes you satisfied, that brings joy to you. And I feel like that's the ultimate goal, to live a life your way without following this crazy blueprint that society, family, culture ingrained in us. And it's so crazy how I follow these creators and they're sharing how they're at this pivotal point of their life when I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I was going through 8 years ago, 10 years ago. Without realizing, now I'm looking at it, I was following my instincts. I was following my gut, even though it looked reckless and chaotic. And it was, right? It really was. And a lot of times I do feel chaotic, especially on these trial and errors, but I always come out the other way and be like, oh, this is why I was doing this. But after like now 8 years, I'm like, oh, I was literally having an identity shift, but I just full on went full bold and just jumped off the cliff and just went for it and just worked on figuring out what could work for me. Something that we need to talk about. And I feel like this new generation, hopefully, what millennials did and are doing is giving another way for others to live without having to go through this confusion period of what the hell I'm doing. And now they actually can see that, hey, you don't have to follow this corporate world or go to a 4 year college and go into debt in order to have a fulfilling life, right? A lot of times you can actually live a life that you actually want without following that blueprint. And it's beautiful to see so many people talk about millennials and how, they're lazy and all this stuff. But no, in reality, we just chose to live a different life. No matter how long it took us, like we chose to live a different life that made us happy. I hope this voice note is something you needed to hear today. If you're a millennial or a different generation, I'd love to hear your input on this and your life and what you're currently going through. If this is something you have experienced, or maybe you're realizing it,